Fabrizio, thank you.
And we're live on YouTube.
Perfect, thanks. Great, guys. Thank you for joining us. I see some familiar faces. Fabrizio, nice to see you back. I know you're very active in the AI space. Please don't give me wild questions today.
It's been a long day.
It's been a long day. Okay. If I can ask the people that have joined at the moment, please, can I ask you to open a browser tab? And if you can visit menti.com, it's a very simple interface, and you just enter this code. I'm putting it in the chat for you. And the question is, at what stage are you with AI? I'm going to remove the picture. And those are the 4 areas. If you could just select, and the reason that I've put this here, please, is firstly, we get to know each other as a group today in terms of orientation, who's where, and it helps me guide where and to what level of detail I'll speak to the topic. So I'd be grateful if you don't mind putting that in the Menti website. We're going to be, there we go, perfect. Okay, so experimenting. And there's a cat. This is an awesome presentation. Walking past the screen. Unexpected, but awesome. AI is pervasive. I'd like to know, we've got quite a big spread. So new to AI and then pervasive. That's going to be quite a thing. Perfect. Thank you for answering, guys. Whoever has got AI, it might be that is pervasive. It might be quite useful to listen to an opinion, because as we go through some of the content, I need to cater for people that are quite deep and the folks that are new to that. So just need to be elegant about what AI is versus going straight into deep learning, for example. So I'm going to give it 1 more minute, folks, and then I'm going to start. I see it's 4 minutes in, just in case we've got new people that are joining. All right, I'm going to go ahead because I see there's 5 responses and there are 6 of us. So I haven't voted. That means you've all done your thing. Thank you. So we're a cozy group today, guys. Thank you very much for joining us. I'm probably going to tease out a few questions because of the folks that I know on the call. What's that happening in the chat? Sorry, I'm in the phone and I'm on the road, so I may lose signal. Miguel, that's okay, no worries. If you can still hear us and then see what I'm presenting, you should be good to go. We'll only have 4 questions, which are similar to what I went through now on Menti, so don't worry if you're on a mobile device. Great, so thank you very much for joining us. Glad that you've taken the time out to not only learn, but swap stories with us. My name is Alistair. I'm joining you from Johannesburg in South Africa. I'm part of the Democratizing Entrepreneurship community, which is across Africa. This is something that was started by Craig, who's on the call. There he is waving. I'm representing EXO Cognitive, and before I start with this, we've been running back-to-back sessions on purpose. If you didn't have a chance to look at Democratizing Entrepreneurship session that happened earlier today or the previous day, I would sincerely encourage you taking 55 minutes to watch the video. You can search for it on YouTube if you like. There is a deliberate link between this session and Democratizing Entrepreneurship, because we will also be looking to making this easier and accessible for entrepreneurs. And today's session is not just about Africa, it's for anybody who's interested. So a bit of background on that. Today's session is supposed to be lighthearted. We're not going to be doing mental karate around which algorithms to use and how to design them. We're going to be looking at how to deploy this in your business, some canvases, and business models. So we saw your answer. Thank you. We've got a wide spread. Up front, I'd like to say that the presentation I'm giving today is quite content rich on purpose, and I'm going to move reasonably quickly, unless there are questions where I'll deep dive on certain sections. But these resources will be sent around to you afterwards, and you'll get a recording of the video. And there are 6 canvases that I'm going to share with you guys, should you find them useful. And the second thing that I want to point out is that there's a whole community which is here to support you. If you're interested, I'd recommend during the session or afterwards, if you could join. We'll be here to support you. And if you want to continue any of the content or conversation that you see today, then that's the place to find us before you get the material. So at some point, I'm going to ask Liesel to share that link on LinkedIn where you can join. I just want to double check the chat because I see 3 things happening. There's a thumbs up. So I have 3 parts to the presentation I'm going to give today. Number 1 is an AI foundation. I apologize for those that are deep into the space, but I need to keep that light. I'm then going to chat about what I feel are 8 business models that are worth paying attention to in the next decade. And then lastly, how do you apply this in your current or new future business, or if you want to change at the edge. And that's where we'll go into the application of parts 1 and 2 and how that might be practical. Right. So a note of upliftment, despite all the doom and gloom and coronavirus hurting businesses and entrepreneurs struggling and needing to reinvent ourselves, I believe the next decade is going to be amazing. And that's because not only AI, but I've put here, we have the equivalent of 25 Gutenberg moments. The reason I've put this here is because often people, when they look at artificial intelligence, they look at it in isolation compared to the convergence of 3 or 4 technologies together. For example, IoT devices in a supply chain might become a data source that you want to apply algorithms to. And you might create an autonomous organization on the blockchain and use avatars and artificial intelligence. So those are 2 examples of why I think it's useful to think about this as an entrepreneur. And I see those as significant opportunities. Besides those 25, I've put this busy diagram where I'm not going to explain everything to you guys, but the point here is that there's a massive amount of disruptive technologies that are converging, and it has an AI element in it. For example, if you're an entrepreneur and you're interested in developing something, have a look at the option of self-writing software. So that means these are Lego blocks that you can use in your business or in your new value proposition. So swarm robotics to solve large-scale problems, for example, on data. Personal avatars, I'm seeing that as emerging and becoming quite a big thing in terms of digital twins, not only of the business, but this is the equivalent of having robotic staff on demand to support and augment you. All right, so I'm trying to get the thinking of, as an entrepreneur, how would I use this in the business in terms of supporting me? So that's quite a bit of complexity. And to deal with that complexity of converging technologies and capabilities, I'd like to use the EXO Canvas as the backbone. I'm going to explain a bit more about it, but what is important is that out of the 11 attributes, one of them is algorithms. And we're going to be focusing only on algorithms today and how it might be used with the other attributes. All right. This EXO Canvas is similar to the old business model canvas that you might have seen from Strategizer, been around 7 or 8 years. What is different about this is that it is based on a study of 130 or 140 of the most successful organizations in the world that are exponential, such as Airbnb, Uber, Facebook, GitHub, and those outfits. And there's a book out around this, which is called Exponential Organizations. I sincerely recommend having a look at that, because when you use AI in your organization or value proposition, as an entrepreneur, we have to ask ourselves, why am I doing this? So it's purpose-driven AI inside your organization. And that's the reason why I've put this in up front. It's one of the 6 canvases that I'm going to chat about at the end of the session. So if you can anchor this in terms of where we're going to be using the different capabilities for the rest of the session. For those who haven't covered this yet, an exponential organization has a disproportionately large impact, which is at least 10 times larger than its peers. Now, when you put a value proposition in the market and you're going to sell something to a customer, or you want to use this on the back end in your own business and operations, it's useful to chase a 10x return in terms of growth or ROI or market penetration, rather than just taking the opportunity of saying, how do I use AI? All right. So the backbone of this is to find a problem that you're going to solve and then look at the capabilities and tools that you'll find in AI. A little bit more detail about an exponential organization. If you are going to create one of these things, I see that I've mentioned the 10x impact. Some or all part of your business should be digitized and leverages accelerating technologies. The key here is not to use AI in isolation, as I've highlighted. But for example, there's something that I'm busy exploring with Craig. How do you use low code or zero code operational platforms and then bolt on cognitive technologies, which is very useful to use a variety when you want to build up businesses or transform them using digital capabilities. And then importantly, it decreases the cost of supply, and that quite often allows you to compete not only on value, but on price. Okay. And then lastly, it forces you to think about new business models. So we know about staff on demand. The gig economy is very, very popular at the moment. But when you start talking about using automation and robotics in your business, and you have to design a new organogram, and you've got Mr. or Mrs. Robot in there next to another human, it forces you to think about how you go to market and how you engage with customers. And that's a whole new business model already, in a simple term. There is a formula for this. You would start with a massive transformative purpose, and I'll explain scale and ideas now, but those are basically 10 attributes in terms of how you access abundance and how you manage it. But importantly, when you work with AI, there's a big human component, and empathy linked to the transformative purpose and the impact you're going to have is super important. For example, my personal MTP is to amplify human capability for good. And every single time that I work with AI in business, I think about how would we be able to amplify human capability. Like today, that's what I'm thinking about. And when you go to market, purpose-driven organizations are normally very successful, and it resonates with your customers and employees. So there's an important thing to think about there before touching AI. Now, the purpose of the session is to chat mostly about AI, and I'm not going to explain this canvas, but we're going to be chatting about algorithms that I've highlighted on the left. And very often you would find, for example, algorithms will be used in all of these attributes. For example, community and crowd, both outside the organization and in your business, you might use analytics on text, like natural language processing, to extract meaningful information so that you can engage with all the content that's coming in on community and crowd. Staff on demand might be intelligent agents and not just people, and algorithms is used there. So something to think about. I put a few organizations that are successfully using this. There is a reason why I've put UiPath in the middle. Because entrepreneurs that are new to artificial intelligence, they face a barrier to entry, which is quite complex. There are hundreds of software platforms out there which are paid for, and there are others that are open source. And I had a question yesterday in terms of the difference between the two, which I'll address later. But that is a useful platform. I'm software agnostic, and I don't promote any software vendor. But the reason I put this here is how do you as an entrepreneur get into a platform to use automation and AI capabilities quickly and cheaply? And I'd recommend having a look at these guys. WorkFusion's quite good, an outfit in New York. And some of these organizations are using just 2 or 3 technologies rather than 10 and a whole myriad of them. So what I've tried to do here is to summarize AI in one page. Now, the people that are using AI on this call that it's pervasive, there are many, many different categories of or buckets of types of AI that you can use. And I've tried to summarize and simplify it in terms of what does this world look like. The umbrella term that I like to use is narrow AI, starting on the left. And the reason I use the word narrow AI is because very often you hear these following words. You hear artificial superintelligence, artificial general intelligence, cognitive automation. And to simplify that, I use the word narrow AI because AGI doesn't yet exist. And that is the equivalent of mimicking the human mind. So we're not there yet. That might take us another 10 or 12 years to get there. So I'm very deliberate in the term that I use here with technical people and with business people. So starting at the top right, the gateway for easy access to all of these technologies is robotic process automation. And I see that as one of the fastest growing deployments in organizations, even now, over this COVID period. Remote work and automation of activity is a huge topic for people. So there's 2 or 3 organizations worth paying attention to. The top 3 in the world are UiPath, Blue Prism, and Automation Anywhere. If you guys are interested in getting access to this, Microsoft has something which is cloud consumption and not license-based, and I recommend checking them out. So instead of looking at the 30 or 40 vendors out there, I recommend having a look at those 3. Now, how might you deploy this in your business? If you look at any repetitive high volume process that you have at the moment, I would recommend starting there. Now, for people that are well versed in AI, that they might scorn this because it's not complex and it doesn't have all the depths of ML, etc., and models and that. But the most important lesson that you as an entrepreneur will learn is not just the automation, but how your processes behave, because you're going to pull some things out and people need to participate with that process, who are both customers and employees. So when you learn how to do it the first, second, and third time, then you can start scaling that. And think about having a digitized business, and you now start offering different value to your customers, or even propositions, for example, for like information consumption on your platform, instead of picking up the phone or engaging with you through emails and things like that. Once you've deployed and done automation, it starts to become intelligent when you add machine learning to that. For example, if you have customer interactions that have been automated, you might want to lift the data that is generated from those processes and understand common trends or patterns from that. Now, machine learning does 2 things, and I know that I'm oversimplifying this because you can get into lots of technical detail here. But I had a look at a study of 125 white papers last year. In essence, machine learning does classification and prediction. Now, the reason I mention that is, as an entrepreneur, when you look at this whole world of many technologies and sciences, if you ask yourself, what do I want to classify and what do I want to predict, then it makes you think about things differently. For example, customer onboarding is a problem worldwide, and I'm using a simple example, but the problem that you might want to solve is, how do I onboard you as a new customer in 5 minutes? And then you go and look at the different sciences and technologies in this wheel and apply it to that process. So everything in life is a process, and there's always cause and effect. And when you think about the world that way, in terms of, I have a process, I may want to automate it, and I may want to classify and predict things like customer behavior, customer purchases, customer interactions, even employee behavior and interactions. So there's a practical example of how you might add ML to that. Natural language processing has a couple of other dimensions in terms of natural language generation and understanding, but for simplicity's sake, NLP is very useful in terms of interacting with humans, both inside and outside your business, and also in terms of value proposition. For example, the holy grail is that you make money when you sleep, and that might sound capitalistic, but it also is quite efficient in terms of how would the public engage with me when I go to bed and my business is closed at 5 or 6 p.m. at night. NLP in an avatar, for example, or something more sophisticated than a chatbot. I don't like chatbots because they're not there yet, and you can break channels in terms of customer communication, but this is where you would use it. You can also use this to process information that you can extract out of documents, and understand that. So structuring and combining structured and unstructured data from different sources, PDFs, documents, emails, cloud and data warehousing might be very useful in terms of how you use NLP. I'm seeing this being used heavily in the legal services around the world and healthcare because they are super intense in terms of documentation. And now you're starting to get a feeling of, okay, I can automate documents and processes. I can learn from them using ML, and I can extract data that may not have previously been extracted using NLP. I just want to pause and ask if there are any questions. If there are, just stick them in the chat. Computer vision is becoming super important as well in terms of document understanding. The best form of this that we are seeing is autonomous vehicles, but medical, understanding medical images, for example, computer vision to take a selfie and onboard people, GDPR compliance based on personal data. I've seen instances of insurance claims in Australia where people will take a photo of their motor car after it's been in an accident and the headlight and bumper is broken in the front, and they upload that, and computer vision is used to recognize the parts that need to be replaced. In the back end, the insurer will go and extract SKU part numbers with prices and then generate a quote. And what that means is you can use 1, 2, 3, 4, the first 4 sciences and technologies to solve a problem where you would previously have to have an insurance assessor, or you'd have to drive in to have an assessment done. So just a practical example on that. In the chat, we see very good point about chat. Yes, GPT-3. Somebody knows about it. Fabrizio, you're the guy who's pervasive then. I just want to highlight something there, and feel free to comment or chat on this, Fabrizio. It came up 2 or 3 weeks ago in one of the sessions that we had in our network, and why I think that is so useful for entrepreneurs. For those who aren't familiar with it, I would classify GPT as one of the most powerful general query engines that is available to people in general. And if you're an entrepreneur, you might say, GPT-3, good morning. I need help digitizing what I offer. I'm a psychologist. Help me. Full stop. Next question. What is a good product market fit? Now, GPT-3 is based on 175 billion data points, and every single day it learns using reinforcement learning from questions and answers and data that it generates based on those, and new data sets available that gets generated on the internet. So that is a very, very useful tool to think about in terms of you're an entrepreneur, and instead of like picking up the phone or emailing people, you can now ask the collective intelligence of humanity with a massive scale AI engine. So it's not commercially available, so you can't just log onto a website and go and do it. You have to request to go through the beta cycle. But as an entrepreneur, please pay attention to that. It's super important because it might be a cheaper and easier way to get access to AI technologies that you want to bolt onto your business. So if you can imagine today's session, which is 1 hour and Alistair talking, imagine having 100 million Alistairs talking for 1 hour that you can ask that question to. So there's certainly a lot of power there. In the chat, okay, Gerardo's having some connectivity challenges there. But I look at the new Fabrizio. Do you want to comment or not really?
Oh, if you want. No, I totally agree with you. I mean, the great point also about GPT-3, for example, is, as you say perfectly, is a very powerful tool compared to the 1 year ago GPT-2. And the best tool for entrepreneurs is that exactly. You have to stop reading, I'm selling AI from tons of companies that probably don't selling AI, and you can access based on the API cost, so very low cost and a very powerful shared intelligence. That's amazing. That's very democratic, I think.
Yeah, I personally think it's absolutely awesome. So I've had a look at many different examples over the past, I think, month and a half. And so if you're an entrepreneur, you might say, give me the GDP of the top 50 countries in the world. And you'll ask and give me the answer in an Excel spreadsheet with bar chart. That is really what you will type in, and then GPT will open up Excel and it will give you the answer. That is insanely good. And you would say, I live in Germany. What is the new tax law and what is the impact on my income statement? And you upload your income statement and you'll get those answers in a tabular and text form, like a short report in one page. So there is some insanely good stuff available to you guys as entrepreneurs. I think, yeah, I know that I'm banging on about it, but it is really worth paying attention. And then the last thing that I want to highlight, which market research. Yes, exactly. Market research. You know, if your business is changing and you want to know data points on anything that you like, you know, I live in South Africa, so does Craig and Liesel. We might say, for example, what is the biggest opportunity for, experienced entrepreneurs to apply this in training? There's a question. How big is the market for medium enterprises with turnover of more than $1 million? And this is amazing stuff that you can do. So if you can think it, ask it. And the last thing that I would just like to highlight, please, I said I'm not going to talk about it today, but I'm just sticking this on your radar, is biomimicry. I'm starting to see the AI community and the business biomimicry colliding. And it's pretty complex, but I think that these technologies are being democratized, like the example we spoke about now, GPT-3. And the best teacher in the world is nature. And the session I said yesterday, without being facetious, is I think nature's been getting it right for millions of years, but mankind's not doing so well right now. And there's many important lessons in terms of how you design AI with humans in the loop, in terms of designing businesses and value propositions. Like that, if you think it, you can ask it. Yeah, look, the whole point is not to focus on the technology, because 100 years ago, you still have to solve a problem. It just so happens that we've got these powerful tools of AI. And I use this word quite often because I've dealt with organizations that say to me, okay, we've got a data warehouse and some processors and lots of data. Can we sprinkle machine learning on there and see what happens? The answer is no. Start with the problem. Two of them that I'm going to use through this presentation is, how do I onboard a customer in 5 minutes? One of the better examples I've seen is Lemonade Insurance in New York. Really awesome stuff. We've got some of them in Africa where you can onboard truly in 5 minutes. Some of the banks around the world have got this right. And they collectively use all of these technologies on this page to do that. Another one is paying out insurance in 5 minutes. So Steve Ibaraki works in the there's also we have a worldwide community called OpenEXO. There's another cool guy called Dr. Arndt. Fabrizio, I know you and I have been in sessions together with him. Very interesting people to chat to in terms of biomimicry and AI. All right, so we're not going to get too much into that detail because you can disappear for months. Okay, so we've spoken about this. I would kindly like to ask you guys to go back to Menti, M-E-N-T-I. And I have a short poll after listening to that lot that I'm going to put in the chat for you. Please give me 20 seconds. I need to open the voting. I see it's done the same thing that it did with you, Craig, earlier. It automatically closes it, which is a bummer. Okay, please can I ask you guys to visit here and enter this different code? And if you could select the answer. My question is, today we are basically skim reading what is happening in the AI world. There's a heck of a lot of detail and complexity that we are trying to democratize for business owners and creators. The question is, would you want to learn more about an in-depth AI course? Yes or no? So I'm just going to come back to the chat for efficiency to help you guys. There it is. Sparked my curiosity. Being overwhelmed is fine as well. We had some folks yesterday that said, it sounds awesome, but I'm brand new. I need some help. So we're going to cater for the whole spectrum of that. Yeah, so we got 3 out of 8, and I know some of us know each other, so I'm going to give it a minute or two. What's sitting behind this question is we're looking at the relevance of how I should rather say, entrepreneurs respond when they hear this topic. I think in December, we're going to be looking at launching an AI Academy, which is part no, but I might be interested. We're going to be launching an AI Academy, which is designed for entrepreneurs rather than data scientists and AI engineers. And its purpose is to do similar to what we're doing today, but in modules which are in depth. So perfect. Thank you very much for the response, folks. I appreciate that. We've got 5. I'm going to move back. If you haven't voted, you can still do so. I just want to carry on because of time. I'm going to move fairly quickly because we've only got 25 minutes left, but it's important to know that besides the technologies and sciences, you now have capabilities. For example, what can I do with that one pager that I've just shown to you guys? Sentiment analysis is quite important in terms of applying some of those technologies I mentioned, so ML and natural language processing, to understand data. For example, you might want to understand what your customers are doing together with publicly available information, such as scraping data off Facebook and Twitter and GitHub and Reddit. That might sound a little bit obscure, but if you're going into the market with a value proposition, you might want to know, what is the world worried about in terms of a specific topic, like customer onboarding, people that are annoyed with slow processes when you've got call centers. You might want to understand their sentiment so that you take your answer and you answer that sentiment. Like if people are unhappy about something, that's a market opportunity for an entrepreneur to go in and solve it. Okay, so I'm just calling out some practical examples of capability and how might you use that. Pattern recognition is super important. You need to understand patterns in data so that you can classify and predict things. So that might be very useful to think about. Computer vision is, I think, it used to be very complex, but it's now becoming democratized and easier to use. So you can apply this to many, many things in terms of interacting with humans. And I foresee a world where keyboards are no longer needed, for example. So I see avatars and I see language and I see vision and people interacting with an interface. Now, visual perception, this might sound wild, but if you go to the year 2030, I should be able to touch any piece of glass in the world and talk to that, which has got an interface, and I don't need a computer or a phone anymore. So I'm going to interact with the surface using all of these different technologies that I've spoken about. May I go to person is Nick. My AI go to person is Nick. Nick, yeah, Dr. Nick in Cape Town. I know him very well, very well.
Yeah, we know him.
Yeah, we all know him. I've presented at his conference and I had a stand there and all sorts of stuff. So we're all in that same movie and the circuit and blah, blah, blah. So the AI people in Africa, they're all kind of super connected. Why not speak there next year? Craig, I think we need people like Craig who are business people that are experienced to help all the AI ninjas to think about entrepreneurship. So that's an awesome suggestion from Guy. And if Craig wants to say, oh, there's just a thumbs up. Yeah. So these AI
Well,
conferences. Yeah.
I'm happy to pitch in very briefly. I mean, you know, Alistair, we've touched on all of the things that we need to democratize. You know, access to education, access to the internet, access to data, and understanding why, you know, controlling your own data is so important, and all that type of thing. And I'm in terms of the future, democratizing AI is definitely part of the equation. So that's my.
Yeah, no, thank you for the feedback. So that's awesome, Guy. We're 100% agreeing with you there. Perfect. So I'm going to speed up a little bit here, folks, because I need to get into the business model world. Just watching the time. I'm not going to, I've covered quite a bit of this content. Virtual workforces is becoming a huge thing. The first industries to move in this space are financial services. And I've seen massive activity. The word massive is just understating just how big that is. So banking and insurance worldwide is using virtual workforces. What I mean by that is humans and robots working together in both a customer journey and an employee journey together. And they are completely they're kind of reinventing the way that they even show the face to the market and how humans interact with an organization. So for those, the most common thing I see here is people get scared about job loss, but no. What I've seen many instances where we've deployed into organizations and people are nervous, but they get liberated and they apply their mind to much more advanced and interesting activities. A real life example, I've used this in an insurer, and there were 27 accountants that we worked with, and they were nervous that they were going to lose their jobs. In the end, what we did is we deployed robots across the whole of finance and accounting, but the people that worked there, we created a management information framework, and all the accountants used their many years of knowledge to advise the business on working capital. Now that's an awesome story. They're not scorekeepers anymore, they're now predictors. And they went from being grumpy every month end and working at 10 at night to being excited and now advising the business. So a real life example there of how this robot and human collaboration works. The AI landscape is super busy. Here is an example of 113 companies. And I put this here for those that are maybe new to AI, because you might think, what kinds of technologies do I want to use? And these blue rectangles are like, if you work in finance and operations, you may want to think about using some of these technologies. This is the latest. It's 1 week old. The reason I know it's 1 week old is in the bottom left, there's Zoom AI, which was only launched a week ago. So I'm hoping that what we're sharing with you is relevant and useful. There's a second reason I'm showing this picture is, please don't fall into the trap of trying to select too many technologies. As an entrepreneur, if you're going into this space, I recommend choosing the big ecosystems, which are not so expensive, like Amazon Web Services. They've got like 40 or 50 capabilities in the AI space, and those are like Lego blocks. The same goes for Google Platform, and the same goes for Microsoft Azure Cognitive Services. So I really recommend this happens later when your business and value proposition is more mature and you start bolting on these like boutique capabilities that you need to bring in per industry. First steps, pick a problem. If you want to go to market, we had a question yesterday, must I do this inside my own organization or must I do this with a customer? My response was, the safest way to do it is do it inside. If it's going to go wrong, you don't want to scare customers and you don't want to lose trust, which is super important. And the other thing that I've seen happen is you can kill a communication channel when you get it wrong. I was working in financial transformation in one of the big banks. They took a chatbot and they put it on Facebook and it couldn't answer all the questions. And people just stopped using that channel, which means that they killed the whole of the Facebook channel for the bank by not thinking through the customer journey. They focused on the questions that a customer asks, not the journey, which makes you think about the questions they'll ask. All right, so just a few basic steps for those who might be new. And then business models. We've got 18 minutes. Okie dokes. This is not definitive, but I feel it might be relevant in terms of these are 8 things worth paying attention to. The crowd economy on platforms, I'm seeing a lot of activity happening there. Swapping data for commercial value, really worth paying attention to, and I'll jump into that now. The smartness economy does focus on using AI and hardware more than software and businesses, so I might not spend too much time on there. Closed loop, I'll explain now. Network effects and the transformation economy is probably the most active thing that I see happening around the world in terms of business transformation, especially using digital capabilities. DAOs is a little bit esoteric, but it's worth paying attention to if you're building businesses. So a quick note about the crowd economy. If I can please draw your attention to the bottom where we have examples at the moment. You notice many of these things are platforms and marketplaces where demand and supply meet each other, and that's the basis of the crowd. And they reinforce the likability, the usability, and the value of what that platform is because it's a crowd. Staff on demand and the gig economy, I see mega activity happening with these guys, TaskRabbit, Upwork, and Fiverr. The reason I mention this to you is because now that you've seen what AI is, the capabilities you can use, you can now start thinking, all right, part 3 is how do I use that in business models that are emerging around the world now? You may or may not be one of these business models that I'm talking about, but it's really worth paying attention to in terms of when I go to market, it's not just about AI. There's a problem, and what kind of business model do I need to be to remain relevant and commercially profitable? So Facebook, Google, and Twitter do a lot of this. You swap data for commercial value. What that means is you might say to your own customers, hey, I'm introducing a new capability. Can you please give me information about yourself, which is psychographic data, and your opinion on the market and a value proposition and things like that, but we'll give you 30 days free. And that's kind of like a freemium model, but it's commercializing data. Why this is so important is that you might take, for example, here's an idea, you might take customer emails for the past 12 months and ask their permission to commercialize the collective intelligence of all of their communications to you and allow them to participate in that. All right. So that's a little bit abstract, but this starts to make you think about, how do I commercialize it? If you look at the session that Craig ran on DE, there is a huge amount of insight. In 1 hour, I think the collective intelligence that I saw yesterday is just insane. Now, you might use something like that in the future to gather data and get people to participate in your business. And it makes it very attractive for customers when you use new data that comes from them to participate in your business together with AI technologies. All right, so AI is going to be, when I use the word electricity, it truly is becoming like that. I don't think that it's going to be AI on its own. For example, the power drill. 100 years ago, we used to drill holes with like manual things. I remember, like my father in the 70s used to drill with these things that you turn. When you add electricity, you still do the same job. You just do it faster and easier. It doesn't mean you don't need holes anymore. So please think about AI in that fashion. You might do similar things with your customers. You're just going to do it easier and faster and cheaper. The same with washing machines. Like also 100 years ago, you used to wash it in a bucket or in the bath, whatever it is. When you add electricity and you got a washing machine, you still need to wash clothes. It's just humans are not rubbing fabric. Now you got a machine and humans can go do other things. So that makes you think about the world differently when you inject AI into absolutely everything you do. All right. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that DAOs. So I'm personally super excited about what can happen here. When you take AI and the blockchain and even IoT devices, this has got absolutely no employees whatsoever. All data, all processes, all interactions are registered permanently on the blockchain. And think about this. You don't need to get auditors and accountants and employees to do that thing. If you were to create, you can create an investment trading company that trades vanilla instruments on the stock exchange with having no humans whatsoever. Now, what you'll do is you'll use automation robots. You'll use machine learning to predict a price and select stocks and equities that you want to trade, and you'll run all those transactions on the blockchain. And that thing is a self-governing business. I really think this is going to become important in the future, where we spoke about humans, and then we spoke about robots, and then we spoke about human-robot interaction. And then I think you're going to get autonomous business-to-business transactions taking place. Like, for example, you can create a supply chain company very easily that optimizes a route, and you might go to supply chains all across US and Europe and Africa and say, hello, Mr. or Mrs. Dow organization, what's the best route? And I've got so much cubic space. What is the optimal way that I do this? No humans required. So there's an example of like a freebie. There's a company that you can go and build. AR and VR, I'm not going to be spending time on that. 12 minutes. I would like to spend a few minutes on this. Please, can I ask you guys to go back to Menti again? And my question is, after seeing all of this stuff, before I get into canvases, what do you feel that you as an entrepreneur needs to be successful? This is free form words, so you can type absolutely anything you want. The reason this question exists is we are going to be running more sessions in the future where we answer what you want. And yesterday we got massive feedback. There are like 40 or 50 things that came up. So type anything you like, and it can be around both business models and AI or anything where those two things meet each other. So
Alistair, it's not working for me yet. I'm just wondering if it's doing that funny business again.
Okay, thank you for
it's
that,
working.
Craig.
It's working for me.
Yes, Liesel, please help us.
It's working for me, Craig. What I did, I just refreshed.
Yes. I also refreshed my page and I noticed that the voting is closed. You can see on my screen. Please give me 10 seconds, and I apologize for my inelegant way of sending you to a website.
That's that.
All right, there's that. I'm refreshing. Can I please ask you guys to maybe refresh your screen? And
it's working now.
Access to experts, perfect. So access to experts is exactly, I've mentioned democratizing entrepreneurship quite often here. The intersection of business and AI is where you're going to find access to experts. Platform, we had a request yesterday to say, can I get a full stack platform? Because I don't feel like the complexity that I need to deal with as an entrepreneur warrants me now shopping around with 10 different technologies. I don't have the time or inclination to do that. So there's a reason why I mentioned the 3 big names that are worth getting into. Again, I don't support software companies or promote them, but an easy way to get in is to have a look at Microsoft Azure Cognitive Services. If you sign up, you have access, free tools. You will have access to 12 technologies for a 12-month period. And I think you get 200 or 300 US dollars for free of cloud consumption. So if you want to play around for 1 or 2 months as an entrepreneur, there's a free way to kind of get involved and experiment and break things safely. Ecosystem of partners is very important. We're finding that both in AI, and so there's a huge thing there where you generate collective intelligence, so powerful. Because there, it's not me, I'm an expert and I know everything. It's like, how do we help each other in terms of knowledge, connections, market access, and those things. All right, thank you for those. Please feel free to type again. I'm going to go back to my presentation because I'm watching that we have 8 minutes. And I'm going to move quickly because there are 6 canvases, which means 1 minute per canvas. Apologies for this. I just need to move to the position I was in. Great. So there are hundreds of canvases out there, but I've very specifically picked these 6 because I thought if you're a business creator or an entrepreneur or even an intrapreneur or even in a corporate, a value proposition canvas is super useful. So you need to understand, what am I going to put in the market? When you introduce AI into business models to solve problems, there's quite a heavy amount of innovation. And people who are not used to that, I've got a free tool that I'll expose you to quickly now. And then you don't want to spend months on this thing. So I've put a lean canvas with a few questions that you can ask yourself. And if you want it to become exponential, you would want to link that to the EXO canvas. In other words, map the traditional lean startup canvas. Even if you're an experienced business, this is about speed and experimentation and getting into the market. The EXO is to make sure that you get exponential results. After you're getting into the market, then you start applying at the highest level AI to your business. And then at the lower level, I've got a machine learning canvas that I'm going to share with you. So what I'm not going to do is explain how to use these canvases because all of these topics will take a long time. I'm trying to put a sequence of tools in front of you so that you can hold all this information about AI, business models, and how do I make it happen, and record that information in an elegant way. This exists to find out what problem you're going to solve, and you have to ask some questions about what are the pains. If I put this in the market, what will the customer actually get out of this? So on the right is the customer, on the left is what you're going to offer. There's a website at the bottom. Here, this is a questionnaire which is free. Please go and have a look at it. And this will show you your weaknesses and your strengths in go-to-market and value propositions when you are innovating. So with or without AI, that picture is actually what it looks like. And the ones with the least amount of dots is a problem area. And you'll see the questions you are asked on the right-hand side will give you, a score at the end, and you'll see, okay, this is where I need to pay attention. And it's not just about you as an entrepreneur, it's the people you work with in your teams. You can hand over, for example, when you're finished with the process I'm recommending, you can have 6 canvases, which is a way to go to market, covering all of these areas I've showed you, and you can share it with your teams. That's a very efficient way to bring people together quickly around a couple of canvases and get into market and test and experiment value propositions. I'm sure many of you have seen the lean canvas from Eric Ries. The only thing that I've done different is I've put blue text to make it easy so that when you communicate with your teams, they know what to add in these boxes. All right, so this is traditional business model design. And the EXO canvas, I would recommend visiting openexo.com to get a feeling of what this looks like. There's some free content that can help you, which is very useful in terms of, I know what problem I'm solving. I understand innovation. I've got a traditional business canvas. Now, how do I make it exponential? That's what this picture is about. This is it's like a paint by numbers example. And at the highest level, this is an example of a company in the Netherlands that used, let me just put the laser pointer on. In the top right, you'll see they are trying to apply natural language processing to the problem of, we're an online marketplace for clothes. We want to review thousands of open-ended questions to discover what is blocking our users from purchasing. When you sit with your teams, you will think, okay, now I've got the first 4 steps right. How do I apply AI? And this, it makes your business people and your technical people come together and start to speak the same language. And that's why I feel this is quite powerful and useful to pay attention to. Very often it's difficult for AI specialists to speak business language, and it's also very difficult for entrepreneurs to speak the whole new world of AI and all of those technologies. So, you know, this might be an elegant way to say, I'm solving this problem. What data do I need? What am I testing and what is the outcome? If it succeeds, and look at the bottom here, an uplift of 3.61% in conversion rate. So they tested and predicted, you know, my customer churn is going to slow down, but this might not be good enough. You might be thinking as an entrepreneur, wow, I'm not going to deploy this in the business, but at least you get some of those answers before you go into the market and spend too much time and money. When you make your decision here are some steps that you take to kind of productionize it in your business. The last canvas is machine learning. Now this goes down, it goes from an AI project level or organization level down to running projects. And this is mostly focused on your technical implementers. And this is not just business and AI specialists, this is technology and AI specialists and data scientists. When you've chosen the problem that you want to implement, this will be the lowest level that you will use before you get like a project charter and actually running and deploying this in your business. So I'm hoping that gives you 6 steps. At the end, you should have only 6 pages that you put in front of you that you can communicate with anybody, technology, your entrepreneurs, your sales, your marketing, technology, all of those guys in the same room. And it's an easy way to kind of, if you do this 6 times in a year, for example, you can have 6 value propositions. So this is designed for repeatability. 1 minute, 5 seconds. All right, we've only just made it. There's 2 things here. Please, if you're interested, come and join the group. There's a link. I think Liesel has already shared it, but we'll stick it in again in case you want to visit. Sign up, and the flavor that you're getting from us today, you will get again every week. There's Friday sessions that are run. And just to finish off by saying that EXO Cognitive will be looking at launching an online AI Academy. Your input and those word clouds will guide some of the first content we put out there. So thanks very much. If you're interested in connecting with me, there's a QR code. We've got your emails. We'll send it around. And you're more than welcome to engage with us.
Alistair, just a quick shout out. I saw Pedro Selo was on the call. He's gone off now, but he's also part of OpenXO, and he's also part of the Exponential Entrepreneurs presentations that are taking place in the week. So thanks, Pedro, for joining us, even though you're gone now. And please look out for his and the other OpenXO content that's happening during this week.
Perfect. Diane, I didn't even know you're on the call. Welcome. How awesome to see this human. Welcome, the United States. I'm so happy to see you. Awesome stuff.
Thrilled to be here. Just truly exceptional. And thank you so much. Looking forward to what's next.
Beautiful. We'll see. We all kind of cross over in different communities around the world. The common thread is like awesome people that care about other humans trying to solve big problems with empathy. So nice to see you here. Awesome stuff. Okay, folks, what's going to happen next is 40 seconds. We're going to send this out to you and we'll do some communications. The message from my side is a message of hope, excitement, and opportunity. as entrepreneurs. So good luck, and we look forward to interacting with you. Thank you so much for joining us today, guys.
Awesome. Thanks, Alistair.